Later, truck.
Forrest and I realized that we have enough stuff to go on a 5-day expedition.
One overnighter above 10K here in the dead of winter, and we've got way too much gear, but that's the way it goes.
We'll be okay.
Going right back to the over-preparedness and the loss of proficiency in the off-season. Heck, I'm out of breath right now.
So at Gearful, we just started carrying Peax equipment. We decided Forrest and I better do our due diligence, and come up here and set up the teepee, use some of their gear, got the trekking poles, the gaiters, etc.
What better way, see my mouth is cold too. what better way to unbox than to unbox above 10K for the first time? And we're definitely burning daylight right now.
We're not even going anywhere special, just right off the road. Maybe right here.
It don't look terrible at first glance. It's like a little landing.
As we said earlier, we had not set up this teepee before. It's recommended that you always test your gear before going into the field, but we also understand that most people neglect that step. Winds were probably 10 to 15 and temps were cold. Even so, we had very little issue figuring out this shelter. The floor goes down first, the tent attaches to the same stakes, put that center post in and secure the guy lines. You're supposed to put trekking poles in next, but we forgot that step. We chose not to secure the corner guy lines. Looking back, it probably would have been worth the effort, but it was fine. The stove takes a little more work. You put the walls around, put the caps on top and bottom, and then the front piece. The pipe was fairly tricky just because it can be sharp and finicky and you really don't want to crease it. So Forrest had us kind of roll it out at an angle and then twist it until it was all the way hot dog style and put the rings on. This method actually worked way better than I was expecting. Everything else about the stove is pretty self-explanatory, with the only mention being that the legs do not stay locked when it's not set down, so adjust your height again once the stove is set. Also, before lighting, make sure that the seam of the stovepipe is facing downwind so it doesn't catch air.
Measure twice and cut once.
You still can't talk.
No, dude.
Alright, what's your plan?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my blade and put it in there till it touches the back wall. And I'm just going to kind of gauge with my eye what's the maximum length of a stick that I should be cutting.
Cool.
Well, Brady, that's why we got a backup. Old Faithful right here with an aluminum barrel that's super chilly at the moment. Let's put that in the back. It's kind of a bummer that we don't have a little bit smaller diameter twigs, but what are you gonna do, huh? We'll see how she takes.
Uh-oh, our foot came undone.
Well, that could be a problem, especially now that it's freaking hot.
Don't do that.
I'm gonna touch this hardware real ginger-like.
Nice.
Look at that! I never tinkered with this cross-track stabilization before. What do you know, Brady?
I don't know a thing.
I'll tell you what, it's another variable to be doing this with a hot stovepipe right there. I almost wonder if we just leave it. You really want to do it?
We got it. We're trying to do a review on this.
We got it as you're laying on your back with the camera.
Listen, if you wanted my job, you could have it.
I'm not no good at that. It's kind of nice. We're going to thread the gap right here. Alright, so if I did that, and I came in and I looped that around there. Hey, you see how close I am?
I think this would be a lot easier if I wasn't so dang hungry.
Like a little bit more patient?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, watch the walls of the tent, right? So,
okay.
If I spread that out, apply tension, and then lock it, they stay. And there's noticeably more rigidity, at least in the upper half of the teepee. And there is a lot more space. I haven't spent a lot of time in every teepee on the market, admittedly, but I have spent a lot of time in one very popular teepee, and I can already see some very clear advantages here. This is a much steeper wall angle, which means that this being single wall, it's inevitable that you're going to have some condensation. When I wake up, or when I toss and turn in the night, or when I wake up in the morning, I'm far less likely to brush that and start my day with a soaked sleeve to some extent or similar. Always.
Oh, hey, look at this.
What do we got? There's a little hook for the wall.
You can hook this little footprint up high, and that's probably what you can do up there, and that's how we keep the snow out. Brilliant.
Securing the southern border. It's like oddly
Shane Gillis, dude.
We are living, Forrest.
He's worried about.
Oh,
Like
This is all right.
we've been watching the USA versus Canada hockey game. We got Shane Gillis.
Is gonna walk the whole way
We got the stove going.
to Pennsylvania.
What's the temperature in here right now?
Boss's desk.
48.2
You're here for the
At the
sales
floor.
position?
at the floor.
Put that thing up top for a bit. Sleeping with your de Havilland pants on?
Yeah, is that crazy?
That's kind of crazy.
I know when you blow your pillow up freaking too much,
It sucks.
it sucks, dude. You gotta have a little cush.
You're really just blowing over the fact that you're wearing practically cargo pants to bed.
Yeah, for sure. But when the morning comes, I'm ready.
You're what, ready to get out and fight the enemy?
Hey, dude.
We're making coffee in the morning.
I know, but at least I don't have to get dressed. Oh, dude, I'm so cozy.
I'm so comfortable.
I'm not even close to touching the wall. And usually I'm always up against the wall.
That's pretty cold. So cold.
Look at that tripod.
Just hanging on. Oh my goodness.
And my sunglasses. All right, we just wrapped up our first night in the Peax Solitude 4-person teepee. As you can see on our collapsible snow shovel, it was a frosty one last night. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. I haven't spent a night in every teepee on the market, but I've spent a lot of nights through many years in arguably the most popular teepee on the market. Having shifted over to the Peax Solitude is legitimately better in many, many ways, and I'll just kind of walk you through those right now. So right off the bat with the door, it's a 2-door teepee, but the doors aren't oriented on a traditional seam of the teepee. So what that allows you to do is once you have a door open, whether it's secured or not, it stays wide open, so you get a lot of ease of access in and out of the shelter. That's a big deal for folks that have been in a teepee before, so massive improvement. Additionally, right off the bat, you can see that the Peax Solitude has a much steeper wall angle. It's also much taller than many other similar teepees. And what that leads to is more livable space in the lower segment of the shelter within. Now, when you take that and you combine it with what you see inside as the cross-trek stabilization system, you get more livable space up around the shoulder or head height, such as if you're kneeling or even standing within the shelter itself. And it adds a lot of noticeable rigidity to the structure. Again, looking at this other snow shovel, it was windy and frosty last night, but the shelter was honestly rock solid. Now, another feature unique to the Peax Solitude is going to be the single point guy out system. You've got one on each side, perpendicular to the 2 doors. Now, it could be looked at as a gimmick at first, but let me tell you, having used it, it is a legitimately good design. You anchor off with one stake, you can set your tension off in 2, and you get the whole wall out with only having to use one stake. Again, that's a really big deal because sometimes when you set up a teepee, the terrain is not conducive for putting in many stakes, and sometimes you really just don't want to. But that's a quick down and dirty on the Peax Solitude 4-person shelter. Again, I honestly could not be more impressed. Many more nights ahead in the shelter, but this is it. It weighs, with a footprint, it weighs 4 pounds and 4 ounces, so it's a little on the heavier side, but a lot of that is because of the features it provides. It's a system you kind of want to split with a buddy. If you don't run a tub inside or a footprint, you're going to be able to cut it down to 3 pounds to 7 ounces. But I'll go ahead and end it with the Torrid stove inside too. Now the Torrid titanium stove is a 1 pound 14 ounce system. It's sold separately from the shelter, just as the footprint is sold separately from the shelter. But very, very unique design, obviously built by hunters for hunters and guys that have had miserable nights in the backcountry, trying to make it easier in the future for folks such as yourself and us. But right off the bat, what you see with the box is a door, a top, a base, and one wall. Traditional collapsible titanium backpacking stoves have no less than 6 pieces just for the box itself. So this is a whole lot easier. And if you look, what Brady and I noticed last night is as it gets ever so slightly more narrow towards the back and curved, it very much seemed like it was easier to establish a good draft when starting a fire inside of the stove itself. So definitely worth mentioning. If you look at these legs, no longer are you trying to thread through 2 fine holes in the lid and the base, and then tightening your wing nuts and then possibly losing your wing nuts. These are captive systems, such as you won't lose any of the hardware of a leg. You simply put it in the detent, top and bottom, set your tension there. If you need to level your stove, you've got 3 adjustments on each leg. Super nice. A lot of other times you'd have to really bring your wing nuts down and level it out, and it's a bit cumbersome, but rock solid design. And perhaps lastly is the dampening system. So traditionally with these type of stoves, you'd get a dampener that is bulky by design, and it can easily become disfigured when you're just backpacking, setting your pack down, overstuffing your pack, whatever it may be. This system has a collar, which is here, and when you roll up your stovepipe to pack it, that collar just is the sleeve that retains the stovepipe in the rolled position, so it's not nearly as fragile. And then your slide dampener is nothing more than just a single sheet of titanium. It's not a grid mesh with a hinge or anything of that kind. But again, this is the Torrid stove and the Peax Solitude 4-person Tipi, particularly sil nylon. Honestly, cannot recommend it enough. Check them out at gearful.com.